Hey, what's up, everybody? Video 44 coming at you with another video. All right, so I'm stopping my workout because I'm hearing a lot of rumors about what's going on with Giannis, and I want to talk about it. Um, Apparently, he's going to be maybe moved within the next probably 24 hours, either to Boston, Miami, or a mystery third team of whom it's just rumored. Miami and Boston are the two teams that have been interesting in regards to this smoke that's hovering around him. I know they want this deal done before the draft. The draft is tomorrow. Uh, One thing that's interesting to me in regards to the Boston Celtics is the fact that they are rumored to be offering Jaylen Brown, Hugo Gonzalez, and multiple first-round picks. And I don't think that's a good idea for the Boston Celtics to be just taking back Giannis, who's had injury issues, slapping him next to Jason Tatum, moving on from not only Jaylen Brown, who's MVP candidate in his prime, still under 30, but also allowing whatever pick equity, which could, tell the story for Boston's future in the deal. Hugo Gonzalez, I would be happy to move on from. I wasn't that high on him in the draft. I think he's proven to be better than I thought, but I still move on from him. I think he's a nice energy guy, but he's a role player. That's not going to be a problem if it's me telling the story. Now, if I'm just giving up Hugo Gonzalez and Jaylen Brown, I think the deal makes more sense. But if I'm parting ways with multiple first-round picks on top of Jaylen Brown, that's just a little too rich for Giannis, who's in his 30s at this point. Injury history, I wouldn't do that if I'm Boston. And this is coming from a Laker fan who definitely would love to see Boston do something that destroys their future forever. But I'm taking my Laker hat completely off, and I'm just thinking about, if I were running that franchise, would that be something I'd sign off on? The answer is I wouldn't. I wouldn't. That's too risky, man. Jason Tatum with the Achilles injury, he doesn't look like it's going to keep him from being a great player going forward, but he does look as if it's going to be something that he's going to really have to work his way through, and who knows if that injury doesn't beget more injuries in the future. And then you slap him next to Giannis, who's had all types of different things go on that's kept him out of the playoffs for multiple seasons. I just think there's a world where the Boston Celtics end up with only one of those guys on the floor at a given moment and whatever's left over on the roster. I've heard rumors about them potentially trying to go after Rudy Gobert, which is really strange considering if they're bringing in Giannis, if they're going to move Derek White for Rudy Gobert. First of all, I don't know why Minnesota would do that. But if they were going to do that, now you're talking about spacing issues with Giannis and Rudy Gobert on a team that's known for shooting threes. It's just not that. I don't know what's going on with Boston. I'm going to be honest with you. I've never pegged them for being anything less than a top-tier organization with top-tier brain trust running things. But right now, it looks like they could potentially be making a turn for the worse as it pertains to the decision-making. And I don't doubt that there may be other moves that could follow. Obviously, we saw Boston years ago. Went and got Ray Allen and turned around and got Kevin Garnett, and suddenly everything made a lot more sense than it did initially. That could be what's going on here. They probably have a vision, and maybe they're going to do some other things as well. But for me, I don't know what's going on with some of these rumors of bringing yourself Giannis and Rudy Gobert. I don't see the vision. Giannis is not somebody that's been able to hit threes consistently for his career. Rudy Gobert obviously is not an offensive player at all, stretching the floor. You're going to have some weird spacing issues if that's the vision. And you're asking him to come to play what? Missoula ball? That is nuts. Missoula ball is three-point shooting eccentric. That makes no sense at all. So you're bringing Giannis to that situation alone. Forget the Rudy Gobert rumor. Bringing Giannis to a three-point shooting system, if he's the only non-shooter on the floor, that could be interesting. But if you're going to ask him to start shooting threes, that could be really interesting. And so I'm not really sure about any of this, honestly. If I'm a Boston Celtics fan, the idea of Giannis could be interesting. The reality of Giannis, I don't know as pretty as they want it to be. And I could see them trading him again 2 years from now. I could see them totally trying to retrade him. The vision don't look good to me. It really doesn't, if I'm being completely honest with you. I just am not a believer in putting two injury guys next to each other who in theory play the same damn position. Giannis and Tatum play the same position. They're both A1 alphas. I don't know that asking them to coexist is the smart decision. I think Jaylen Brown was a guy who was more comfortable playing the 2A role next to Jason Tatum. Giannis has never had to do that. Giannis is now going to be coming into Jason Tatum's team. And Giannis is his own entity entirely. So is it going to be Giannis's team and Jason Tatum is the 2A? I don't see JT Money doing that on the team that he was drafted on, for which he won a championship. It's a lot about this situation, and I'm looking at it and I'm saying, okay, I don't know if they're not asking for something not to really work out there, and you're giving up too much to make it come together. So it's something to monitor. I think in the short term, it's going to be really exciting if they can stay healthy. Obviously, you'd expect for them to be the top team coming out of the East next year. I think that's easy. It's an easy call to see Giannis and Jason Tatum if they mesh together, dominating the East. But I just don't expect for them to both stay healthy. And if you're going to deplete the team of their future assets, or a sizable amount of future assets, it could be detrimental to their future entirely, unless they retrade one of these two or both of these stars. Which, I mean, if we're being, honest, of course you would expect to be able to get super hauls for both of these players. If you try to reset your situation, you can get a nice return for Jason Tatum and a very nice return for Giannis. We obviously believe that. Off their name alone, people will give up multiple firsts. So I don't know if I'm worried too much about that. But it would require that you do. And when you have players like Giannis and Jason Tatum, you don't want to trade them. You don't want to have to, when you consider what you need to do around them, you're going to want to retool around them. Those are not players that you can just move on willy-nilly unless they significantly lose value in your situation, which I suspect should be something that Boston should anticipate, given that Giannis is starting to enter, what is this, age 31, age 32 season or something like that? I don't know, man. I don't know. Meanwhile, from what I understand, Milwaukee's starting to warm up to the idea of, bringing in Jaylen Brown. They're starting to have conversations surrounding that rumor that Jaylen would be fine with being in Milwaukee and Milwaukee would be fine in keeping Jaylen. So it may not be necessary for them to find a team for him to be a part of. But, I think that's one of those situations where you could totally see them trading him later. You know what I mean? Like, just get him in the door. And then if we decide we want to reset and it doesn't work out, we can get a great return for him 6 months from now, a year from now, 2 years from now. So I don't think that's urgent on the Milwaukee Bucks front office, part of the game. I don't think it's too urgent that they find a different landing spot for Jaylen Brown right now. I don't think so. But initially there were rumors said that Jaylen Brown and Milwaukee were not going to be uniting if this situation takes place. The Clippers were involved in conversations. Miami, I think, was actually involved in the conversations for Jaylen Brown. All of these are rumors. So we'll see what happens. But I do believe that Jaylen Brown will want a win-now situation, and I don't think Milwaukee is going to be building one right away, nor should they be. So I don't know, man. I don't really have a feel for what's going on. All I know is that a team should be landing Giannis within the next 24 hours. I expect that to be done probably today, to be honest with you. But the Miami situation is also involved, of course. But from what I understand, it's almost like Miami is not willing to part with draft equity and they're not willing to part ways with Bam. Bam is untouchable in this trade. So I think that basically if you're not giving up first and you're not willing to give up Bam and you're not willing to gut your team, it's a lot of stuff that's basically saying Miami's drawing a hard line on what it is they have and don't want to cut into it too much to bring back Giannis, which is, I guess, understandable, but that's assuming you believe in what Miami has. I don't actually love what Miami has, so if I were in control of Miami Heat, it wouldn't be anything untouchable there. Nothing at all. But, they love Bam Adebayo. They have a certain, affinity for what it is that they have and with who they've drafted. And I think every team feels that way about their guys. But from the outside looking in, without that affinity, just looking at what they have, I wouldn't have a problem moving any of that stuff for the right price at this point. I don't think the ceiling of anything Miami has currently is NBA championship right now. And if anybody was untouchable for me in Miami, it would be Khalil Ware, of whom, from what I understand, they're willing to let go of. So I don't think Miami has valued their assets properly since LeBron has left, to be completely honest with you. I don't think I've seen anything from the Miami Heat personally that makes me say this team is on the verge of getting a championship. Now, they've overachieved a lot. Fantastic coaching has helped with that. A system and a quality culture that has kind of gotten the most out of people when they come into their system. So I understand maybe not wanting to part ways with people who are accustomed to that system, but as far as them, like the choices that they've made to bring certain things to them and all of this, and the way they've evaluated talent, I just haven't agreed with really at all. So I don't get Miami. I don't get them as it pertains to how their front office evaluates their own talent or others, to be honest with you. But you know, the rumor that I heard last night before I went to sleep is that the Lakers were cut into this deal. And, you know, it was somebody who had tweeted that this is almost done. I don't know how much truth that is, and even if that was true, it didn't have to stay true, you know what I mean? These things are very sensitive. But he released a tweet essentially saying that the Lakers would be giving up Vanderbilt and the 2031 first-round pick, and that was it, and we would be getting back Khalil Ware, and, of course, other teams were involved. Detroit was also going to swing us beef stew, Isaiah Stewart, and that would be all the Lakers had to give up. I didn't believe that rumor because I didn't feel like the Lakers were giving up enough, to be honest with you, for that to be what we get back. Khalil Ware and beef stew coming our way, and all we gave up was a future first and a bad contract on Vanderbilt. That was weird to me. So I just automatically wrote that off as false or inconclusive as it pertains to what all would be included in that trade. But a lot of stuff would be going to Milwaukee, of course. Giannis would be headed to Boston. No, Giannis would be headed to, I think, Miami. I think Giannis would be headed to Miami. No, Giannis would be headed to Boston. Tyler Hero would be headed to Detroit. And a bunch of stuff would be headed to Milwaukee. I think that's how that went. A bunch of stuff like Jaime Hawkins, Jared Vanderbilt, bunch of picks from the Lakers, one pick, and the rest of them from Miami. So yeah, get Boston out of that. Giannis would be going to Miami. It was Detroit, Miami, and the Lakers were in this, not Boston. And so it was just a bunch of stuff. I think Yaku Shonas was headed to Milwaukee. Jaime Hawkins was headed to Milwaukee. Picks in abundance and some more stuff. But I just looked at that and I said, as a Laker fan, I'm running to do that deal, even though I don't like giving up first. If it only takes me one first and a Vando contract to get beef stew and Khalil Ware, of course I'm going to pull the trigger on that deal. That's heavily favored for the Lakers. So I just didn't. I would love to see that happen, but that just didn't seem realistic to me. I don't think anybody would actually let that happen. Milwaukee would be getting a lot back. No doubt their return would be fantastic. They got like 4 or 5 first-round picks in there coming from both us, the Lakers, and the Heat. Detroit gets their man. So it looked like a good return, but then I look at the Lakers and I just say, man, we walk out of there scot-free. Like, I just don't know how the hell we did that. So that's really what it was. But all things considered, the return from Milwaukee seemed heavy for a Giannis trade, and Detroit gave up what seemed like a good amount to acquire Tyler Hero, who I think is a good call for for Detroit to get Tyler Hero, because they really need, as I often say, a mainstay shooter in their rotation. They need somebody in that rotation that they don't want to trade, that can stretch the floor. And so I love the idea of them acquiring Tyler Hero. I think that's a fantastic landing spot for Ty. So hopefully for their sake, this happens. For our sake, this happens. And of course, Giannis going to Miami is not overly exciting to me, but I'm sure Miami fans would love to have him. So that's the deal I'm rooting for, but it just didn't seem realistic to me, even though it was said that it was done already pretty much. But not a very reliable source there. So take it for what it's worth. Either way, it looks like Giannis could be on the move. My take on things right now is, if Boston's willing to do something stupid, they can get Giannis. That deal that we proposed, that we talked about here, that was proposed rather, that rumor didn't seem complete to me. For this, if that's what they have to give up, first round picks and Jaylen Brown, and all they're getting back is Giannis, they're not getting back enough. It should be Giannis and stuff. Or I think it was Giannis and then Jaylen Brown, and they're giving up Hugo Gonzalez and sending him to Milwaukee. That just did not seem like that made a whole lot of sense to me, if I'm being completely honest with you. They should be getting more back than just Giannis if they're giving up Jaylen Brown and multiple firsts. So I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't trust that deal. I don't trust that deal, even though that's one that's being rumored. I would imagine there's going to be more stuff added to it, another team added to it. I still think the mystery team is probably the team that's likely going to land Giannis. Because if I'm Boston, they need to start having cold feet on that. They need to start having cold feet on that. Jaylen Brown and multiple firsts for Giannis Antetokounmpo. If this was 6 years ago, of course. Right now, Giannis is 31, 32 years old? No. Heck no. Heck no, I'm not doing that. That's too much. And you're giving up on Jaylen Brown too soon, obviously. I mean, he's in the middle of a Hall of Fame career. I understand he could be a little controversial and stuff like that, but you've already won a championship with him and Jason Tatum. I don't know why breaking that up is something that's so urgent to do. You bite off a little too much, you want a little more than you could chew. A guy says, "Oh, I want to move on." You've been watching him dominate the East for the last 7 years. You see a guy next to you, Jason Tatum, who could dominate the East as well with him, and it's like, okay, well, this is what we need to do. But what a guy did is not what he's going to do in theory. Giannis from the last 3 years may not be the Giannis over the next 3 years. Jason Tatum's injury issues are not something that you want to compound with a guy who could be declining, who doesn't shoot the ball in an all-shooting system. It's not, I'm telling y'all, not everything that glitters is gold. The Lakers, and then this is an extreme example, but the Lakers went and got Russell Westbrook coming off a fantastic year with the Washington Wizards. But the fit was bad, but he was playing so well with the Wizards that we were so excited to bring him in. He brought him in, and it all went to hell. We all saw how bad it was. I'm not saying Giannis to Boston's going to be anywhere near that bad, because I do not expect that it will be. But scratching in that direction, I guess, is what it is I'm concerned with if I'm Boston. I don't think it's going to work out. I don't think they win a championship unless they put together something that maybe they don't have the ability to put together, in my opinion. I don't see it. And even though Missoula's won the NBA championship, I'm not the biggest Missoula guy either. I don't know that he's the right guy for that situation. If all he's going to do is launch threes all night and all day, I don't think so. So that's really what it is. But mystery team, who knows who the mystery team is? I'm hoping the mystery team is my team, man. I want him on the Lakers, honestly. I think him and Luka is an entirely different conversation. You talk about Luka, who isn't coming off an Achilles injury, who doesn't play the same position he does, who really needs somebody who can catch a bunch of lobs, who really needs somebody who can play some defense. I don't know that you want Giannis to play the center position every night going forward. I think you probably want him to be a little more fluid as it pertains to what position he plays. Sometimes the 4, sometimes the 5. But Giannis is an underrated passer. Definitely somebody who can switch everything, obviously, all the time. I just think that, I personally think he will likely be able to win a championship with the Lakers, and Luka probably is I think that is more likely than him winning a championship with Bam in Miami. Depending on how things shake out with Tatum, I'd say you probably feel good about that if you're just looking at it in a nutshell. But I don't trust what needs to happen in Boston in order for them to come together, and I don't trust that him taking a backseat to Jason Tatum is something he's going to want to do. I think playing with Luka is different. It's different because Luka is a hyper passer. Even though he's ball dominant as hell, he's a lob thrower. He's somebody who passes very well. And life is easy when Luka's on your team. Jason Tatum in the past, though he's an MVP candidate, fantastic defensive player, certainly don't have as many defensive responsibilities if you're playing with Jason Tatum, which could help, but I don't know how healthy Jason's going to be, so you might be on the floor by yourself anyway. But, there's something to be said as a Laker fan who's been watching Luka now for a season, just how easy life is when Luka gets into his bag. He gets on the floor, he takes 8 shots, and you're up by 15 without even trying. Like, that's a world that Giannis doesn't know anything about. You know what I mean? You don't understand it at all until you have Luka on your team, just how easy basketball games are to win because of just the advantage he puts on at the beginning of the game. Your responsibility with Luka as a unit is to keep the lead he gives you. That's really what it is, because he gets off in his first quarter bag. He gets a majority of all of his stuff in the first quarter, and then he leaves it to the rest of his team pretty much to carry him home. He going to have 20 points in the first quarter, 20 points, 7 assists, and 4 boards in the first quarter. You up by 15. Don't blow the lead. So that's essentially, and that's like the calculus for Luka-led teams. Keep the lead that he gets you, because early on, he going to take a couple shots, and if he's on, you're up. I mean, he's one of the best plus-minus players I've ever seen, really, because his team is like light years better for him being on the floor, just doing what he does. Couple step backs. He don't even exert a lot of energy doing it, too. Just a couple step back, shoot, get to the line, a little bank shot, off the 3-point play type stuff. He does that 4 times, and you're up by 15. You didn't have to try. Your team doesn't even broke a sweat. You're already up. And so I just think that when you consider Giannis and how much of a load he's had to take in the NBA, dragging a Milwaukee team that's never been constructed properly outside of the championship year, you want life to be really easy for a guy like Giannis. And I don't know that him playing with Bam Adebayo is easy at all, because at the end of the day, there's no spacing there. We're the shooters. You're moving Tyler Hero. You're moving Yakushonis, the young point guard. He's not really a shooter, but I don't. Him and Bam a spacing issue. Although Bam could shoot a little bit, I don't want to disrespect Bam's shooting ability, but he's not a shooter. I think they could be good defensively. They could be a nice tandem defensively. But the stuff rotating around him, Wiggins, what are we doing? Him in Miami, what are we actually doing? They're gonna have to make other moves in order for that to work, and I don't know that Miami's going to have the assets after the deal in order to do so. So I'm kind of out on Miami. I don't really believe in that situation. Boston, Jason Tatum, health. Jason Tatum, decision making at times, especially when he gets into his I'm going to score bag. It could be a little much. So I'm not down on Tatum if he's healthy, but the Achilles injury going forward is not something I'm willing to heavily invest in if I'm a franchise. Not heavily. If I'm going to bring him a running mate, it'll be the running mate he's been running with for the last 8-9 years, who's won a championship with, who knows him, who understands him. Jaylen Brown is probably the best running mate for Jason Tatum. And they're about to blow that up so they can bring themselves a guy who doesn't know their situation, who doesn't have any loyalty to their situation, who probably in a nutshell does not want to live in Boston, really. He's been fighting against the Boston Celtics, an op basically. So I don't really know. I don't really know about the Giannis to Boston thing. I think Giannis would be happier if he went somewhere else. A third team. And I'll tell a guy like Giannis, you're trying to position yourself somewhere. Miami they haven't handled their assets very well, as we mentioned. They do have a culture that I think you would enjoy being a part of, but the assets that they have and the stuff that would be circling and surrounding you, what you're banking on if you're them is that your presence is going to give them free agency favor. People are going to look and say, I want to play with Giannis in Miami, which is possible. But that's kind of what you're dependent on if you're Giannis. Like, once I get there, we can get free agents. Because through the draft, they're not going to be able to do much without picks. The players they have on their team, they're not really good enough to do something unless you're doing a lot. And that's my take on the Miami thing. I just don't think that's the greatest place for him to want to go. Sometimes these superstars, they want to live in certain places. Sometimes they get enamored with the idea of brands, but they're not looking at the asset class of certain teams. You know, certain teams can do a lot for you. If he's looking at things clearly, the teams that he would probably want to go to, honestly, the Thunder, the Spurs, the Jazz, the Hawks, the Knicks, teams that have assets, man, lots of them, so that they can create whatever you want to imagine, you can imagine around you. You know what I mean? Teams with vision. Washington, who have all the assets in the world. Those are the teams that these superstars should actually want to go to, because those are the teams that have the ability to do a lot with a blank canvas. Memphis is another one. Those are the teams, man. Or teams with the upswing superstars like Wemby, like SGA. That's where Giannis should actually want to be. If he's thinking clearly and he actually wants to win, those are the teams that they're going to be able to put stuff around him that can actually win, who have the assets and the brain trust to do it. Miami, they haven't proven that, man. They haven't proven that. Boston, you would consider them that. They've been that, but it looks like they're going to start doing things that speak to them headed in the wrong direction. And so that's what comes to mind, man. I just think, you know, path is important, man. And sometimes these people want to live in places they want to live, but the place you live, if the job stinks, suddenly it's not as pretty. You know what I mean? The lifestyle is one thing, but quality of life can be altered by bad situations. And I don't think Miami is at all what Giannis thinks it is. Not as it pertains to the Heat organization. It ain't what he thinks it is. And this is my opinion. Pat Riley does things a certain way. He values things a certain way. And they have not made great decisions, man. Golden State, same thing. Bad GMing up there. That was another name team for Giannis. That's a terrible decision. Don't go there, bro. Yeah, Steph Curry, great. Cool, yes. But what's going on there? How are they moving? What do their asset class look like? Do they have a path to building anything? Do they have the people in place that evaluate talent properly so that they can build the right thing? No, they don't have none of that. They do things the wrong way up there, so don't put them on your list. You might as well put Sacramento on your list. You know what I mean? If you're going to do that. So that's my take on Giannis. I do think that he's about to walk into a situation that's not that much more enjoyable than the one he's been in, if I'm being completely honest with you. If he goes to either Boston or Miami, I don't think that's going to end well. I really don't. I don't think it's going to end with him hoisting trophies and stuff like that. I don't think that. Because I don't believe they can build that stuff around him. So that's my take. Boston, is like I said, their reputation has been good. So if it works out in Boston, this doesn't age well, I wouldn't be overly surprised because they have made good decisions in the past. But I just don't think – I think this is the start of them making bad decisions. This move signals to me that they got a bad vision. It's the same thing I said about the Rockets when they decided they wanted to unload their young players and bring in older guys. I was like, yo, this is the turn. This is the turn for the Rockets. They got everything everybody wants, but their vision, what they want, is bad for them. And you see where they're at right now. I'm sensing the same thing with the Boston Celtics. Like, this feels like, we're about to head down the path of becoming a team that's not very good. I was right about the Rockets. I think I'm right about the Celtics. This is a bad start to a new era in Boston. And it looks good. On paper, it looks good. But the reality is some stuff you just don't want to do. Take it from a Laker fan that did the Russell Westbrook thing. Some things you don't do, man. So this Giannis thing, I don't think Boston should do. Miami, I don't believe in Miami's organization at all. I think that their culture is good. The idea of Miami is good. The reality of Miami is mediocre, and it's been that way for a couple of years now. So that's my take on that. I think Giannis needs to take a step back, and even if it takes him another half a season, take a step back and look at the landscape and try to find a better landing spot for yourself than to sign off on either one of these deals, in my opinion. I really do think he should probably wait another 6 months. And I know there's a lot of people who don't want to hear that. I don't think that's going to happen. I give that like a 99% chance of not happening. He's getting traded. But I don't think he's going to like where he's going, man. I don't. Unless they're doing stuff that I just haven't heard or seen or have a vision that I can't foresee or have assets coming out of somewhere that's not necessarily visible to me. So that's what I want to say, man. I if I'm looking at mystery teams that can afford to do something like that, I made a video on that about a year ago. I still think the Toronto Raptors have the assets. They have the assets to go get Giannis. I don't know that they have any interest in doing that. The Portland Trailblazers as well, they got the assets. So if I were to guess two mystery teams that could be coming out of nowhere that nobody's thinking about necessarily, it would be the Toronto Raptors and the Portland Trailblazers. So that's pretty much what I got to say. We're on Giannis watch. I'm afraid he's going to be unhappy if he goes to either Boston or Miami. Video 44. I thank you all for watching.